Story title: Saint RamZ vs. Olympia. Introduction. In a world where ancient gods walk among mortals, RamZ, a once mortal hero turned saint, stands as a protector of human freedom. His ideals bring him into conflict with Olympia, a powerful city-state ruled by Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. Athena believes that only through divine guidance can the world find true order, and she has set her sights on a legendary artifact, the celestial sphere. This relic, hidden within the mysterious Eclipsed Valley, is said to hold the power to reshape reality itself. Athena plans to use the sphere to restore the gods' influence over the mortal realm, ushering in a new era of harmony under her guidance. But RamZ, who once sealed the sphere away to protect humanity, knows the dangers it holds. He fears that such power will come at the cost of human freedom and self-determination. Now, the two stand on opposite sides of a growing conflict, each convinced that their path is the right one. As Athena's forces march toward the valley, and RamZ gathers his allies to oppose her, their battle will decide the fate of both gods and mortals and awaken an ancient darkness that threatens to consume them all. Chapter 1: The Rising Tide. The city of Lyra, once a beacon of hope, now lay tense with uncertainty. Its people, who had long lived under the shadow of divine rule, now placed their hopes in RamZ, a hero who had ascended to sainthood after leading a rebellion against tyrannical rulers. Standing on the steps of the great council hall, RamZ gazed down at the faces of his followers, the air thick with anticipation. His silver armor shimmered under the midday sun, its intricate designs a blend of ancient runes and symbols of human strength. RamZ raised his voice, and it rang out over the crowd like a battle cry. "We have bent the knee to the gods for too long, allowing them to dictate our fates. But now we rise, not as subjects, but as masters of our own destiny." The crowd erupted in cheers, but among them, whispers of doubt lingered. Could they truly challenge the gods and their divine power? RamZ saw the uncertainty in their eyes and steeled himself. He knew their fight was far from over. Athena, the unyielding goddess of wisdom and war, would not stand idle. As he turned back toward the hall, a shadow fell over the city, dark clouds gathering unnaturally fast. RamZ paused, sensing a familiar presence. In the distance, the air rippled, revealing the silhouette of a tall figure clad in a cloak of stormy gray. It was Hermes, the messenger of the gods. "RamZ!" Hermes called out, his voice carrying on the wind. "Athena knows of your defiance, and she comes with the wrath of Olympia. This path you tread will bring ruin." RamZ met Hermes's gaze, unyielding. "Tell her that we will not bow, not anymore. Let her come." Hermes's expression grew solemn as he faded into the mist, his parting words hanging in the air. "May you find strength, Saint RamZ. For the storm you summon will spare none." Chapter 2: Athena Descends. In the celestial city of Olympia, the gods watched from their ivory towers, their radiance dimmed by the rising tide of mortal rebellion. Athena stood at the edge of a marble balcony, her gaze fixed on the mortal world below. The winds of change carried whispers of RamZ's defiance, and each word stung like a thorn. Behind her, Zeus, her father and the once mighty king of the gods, sat on a throne that no longer gleamed with the same power. "Athena, this war with mortals is a folly. Let them have their moment of rebellion." Athena turned, her eyes blazing with conviction. "If we let them forget our place, the order we have maintained for eons will crumble into chaos. I will not allow RamZ to lead them into ruin." Her hand hovered over the celestial sphere, the relic pulsing with the energy of creation itself. She knew its power could restore the gods' dominance over Egeria, but using it risked unleashing forces that even the gods feared. Athena clenched her jaw and tightened her grip on her spear. As the goddess descended to the mortal world, a storm brewed in her wake, and thunder rolled across the skies of Lyra. Athena's arrival was heralded by bolts of lightning that struck the earth, carving paths of fire through the sky. When she landed on the outskirts of the city, RamZ stood ready, his sword blazing with the blue flames of his sainthood. "Athena!" RamZ called out, his voice unwavering despite the crackling of divine power in the air. "This world belongs to its people now. Your time has passed." Athena's gaze was cold, her voice like steel. "You have forgotten your place, RamZ. And you will learn that freedom comes at a price." Chapter 3: The Battle of Ideals. The plains of Solara stretched wide beneath the shadow of the storm as RamZ and Athena met in battle. Thousands of mortal warriors stood behind RamZ, their armor gleaming, while Athena's divine presence filled the air with an otherworldly light. The clash of mortal and divine forces shook the ground, turning the earth into a battleground where the fates of gods and men would be decided. RamZ charged first, his sword trailing a streak of ethereal blue flames as he clashed with Athena's golden spear. Sparks flew as their weapons met, each blow sending ripples of energy across the field. The mortals fought with desperation, driven by RamZ's vision of freedom, while Athena's warriors fought with the precision and resolve of those who believed in the divine order. "You fight for chaos, RamZ!" Athena shouted as she blocked a strike, her eyes fierce with determination. "Without us, they will turn on each other. Is that the future you desire?" RamZ's response was a swift counterattack, driving her back. "They deserve the chance to choose. To build their own world free from your chains." But even as they fought, the sky above them darkened further, and the ground trembled with a new, unnatural force. The celestial sphere, carried by Athena, began to glow with a dangerous intensity, and a deep fissure opened in the sky, revealing a blackness that swallowed the light. Athena's expression shifted to one of alarm as she realized the truth. "The void, it stirs. The sphere's power is too great." The battlefield fell silent as both sides turned to the sky, where shadows began to seep from the rift, twisting into grotesque forms that slithered through the air. A chill swept through the land, and fear gripped both mortal and divine alike. Chapter 4: Shadows Unleashed. The void emerged from the rift, a swirling vortex of darkness and ancient malice. Its voice was like 1,000 whispers speaking as one, each filled with the promise of oblivion. "You have awakened me with your hubris, gods and mortals alike. Now I will consume it all." RamZ and Athena found themselves standing back to back as the shadows closed in, their clash forgotten in the face of a far greater threat. RamZ glanced at Athena, his expression grim. "This is what you have wrought, Athena. We can't fight this alone." Athena's jaw tightened, but she nodded. "I did not intend for this. But I will not let Egeria fall. We must use the sphere to seal the rift." RamZ's heart pounded with the weight of the choice before him. He knew that the sphere's power would consume whoever wielded it to close the rift, but without action, all would be lost. As the void's tendrils reached for them, he made his decision. "Go to your people, Athena," RamZ said, gripping the sphere's radiant core. "I will end this." Athena's eyes widened. "You cannot wield it alone. It will destroy you." RamZ's voice softened, a small smile on his lips. "Better one life than all. This is my choice, my freedom." Chapter 5: Sacrifice and Redemption. RamZ unleashed the sphere's power, the light burning through him as he directed its energy toward the rift. The void howled in rage, its shadows disintegrating under the searing brilliance. The rift began to close, the darkness being pulled back into the void from which it had come. But with each moment, RamZ's body grew fainter, his essence merging with the light. Athena watched, torn between admiration and sorrow. As the last shadows vanished and the rift sealed shut, Ram's form dissolved into a cascade of shimmering particles, drifting into the sky like falling stars. The battlefield fell into a stunned silence, the mortals and divine warriors alike staring at the empty space where Rams had stood. Athena lowered her spear, her heart heavy with the cost of victory. She turned to the gathered mortals, raising her voice over the wind. Let it be known that Rams gave his life to save us all. He fought for a world where mortals could choose their own path. Honor his memory. In the days that followed, the storm clouds cleared, and a fragile peace settled over Egeria. The gods retreated to the edges of existence, their influence over mortal affairs diminished. Athena, her vision of order tempered by the memory of Ram's sacrifice, became a protector rather than a ruler, watching over the world from afar. Chapter 6: A New Dawn. Years later, in the rebuilt city of Lyra, a festival was held each year to commemorate the day of the great sacrifice. The citizens gathered in the town square, beneath the statue of Rams, his sword raised high in defiance, gazing up toward the heavens he once challenged. His story had become a legend, a reminder that even a single mortal could change the course of history. Children listened wide-eyed as elders recounted tales of the battles against the gods and the darkness that nearly swallowed the world. Songs were sung of Ram's courage, and lanterns were released into the night sky, drifting upward like the stars that had once carried the echoes of his final stand. Athena watched from the edge of a forest near Lyra, hidden from sight, her divine form softened to resemble a mortal. She no longer bore the armor of war, but instead a simple gray cloak, her face shadowed by the hood. She looked upon the celebration with a quiet, bittersweet smile. This world, shaped by Ram's sacrifice, was not what she had envisioned, yet it had grown strong, finding its own kind of balance. As the last lanterns rose into the starlit sky, she whispered softly into the night, a prayer carried on the wind. May your spirit find peace, Rams. You've shown us that true strength lies not in power, but in the willingness to give all for the future. And high above, among the stars, the faint glow of a new constellation shimmered, a warrior with a sword blazing in the night sky. Ram's spirit, immortalized not by the gods, but by the dreams and hopes of the people he had died to protect. Egeria was still a world of uncertainty, but it was a world that belonged to those who lived within it, free to rise, to fall, and to shape their own destinies. And as long as the stars burned in the night sky, the story of Rams and his battle against the divine would never be forgotten. Chapter 7: The Ghost of the Past. As the years passed, the scars of the battle between Rams and Athena began to fade, yet the echoes of that clash lingered in the corners of Egeria. The mortals lived free, but the balance of power had grown delicate. New mortal kingdoms rose, often at odds with each other, struggling to define what freedom truly meant. Even with Athena's watchful guidance from afar, the fragile peace was under constant threat. One night, beneath the pale glow of a crescent moon, a shadow moved through the outskirts of Lyra. In a forgotten ruin that once housed a temple to the old gods, a figure knelt before a cracked altar. This was no ordinary traveler, it was a hooded stranger whose presence seemed to warp the air around him, an aura of dread clinging to his form. He reached into his cloak, drawing out a shard of obsidian, a fragment of the void's essence that had survived the sealing. As he held it up to the moonlight, whispers filled the air, echoes of the ancient darkness that Rams had banished. The shadows twisted, dancing across the ruins as if drawn to the shard's power. The stranger's voice, low and sinister, filled the chamber. The light of Rams dims, but the shadows still hunger. The gods and their champions thought they could keep us chained. But the void is patient, and darkness always finds a way. With a flick of his wrist, he placed the shard into the altar's heart. The ground trembled, and a dark energy pulsed through the ruins, sending a shiver across the land. somewhere in the celestial heights, Athena felt the disturbance, her gaze snapping to the distant city of Lyra. She sensed a familiar chill, like a ghost from a long-buried past. The stranger vanished into the night, leaving the shard to pulsate with a quiet, malevolent glow. His words lingered in the air, carried on the wind that swept through the ruins. The void shall rise again, and this time, there will be no saint to stop it. Chapter 8: Athena's Search. Athena, sensing the disturbance, descended to Argyria for the first time in decades. She walked among the mortals in disguise, searching for any trace of the darkness that she knew too well. Her memories of Ram's sacrifice haunted her, and she feared that history might be repeating itself. The thought of another clash with the void chilled her to the core, for this time, Rams was not there to stand beside her. In Lyra, rumors began to spread of shadows moving through the night, of people vanishing without a trace, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. Athena visited the ruins, where the shard of the void still pulsed with power, hidden beneath a cloak of night. As she examined it, she realized that the void was not just a force of chaos, it had a will, a purpose. It sought to unravel the fabric of reality, one thread at a time. Athena knew she couldn't face this threat alone. She sought out the descendants of Ram's followers, those who had inherited a fragment of his strength. Among them was Alaric, a young warrior who carried a blade forged from the remnants of Ram's own sword, its edge flickering with the same ethereal blue flame. Alaric was skeptical of the goddess who had once opposed his ancestor, but the urgency in Athena's voice won him over. "We have to seal this darkness before it spreads," she told him, her eyes burning with the same fierce determination that once clashed with Ram's. "I need your help, Alaric. You carry his fire and use it to light our path." Together, they ventured into the depths of the ancient ruins, where shadows twisted and writhed. As they reached the altar, Alaric placed his hand on the shard, feeling the cold tendrils of the void brushing against his mind. He hesitated, but Athena placed her hand over his, steadying him. "We will seal it together," she said. "As allies." Alaric nodded, and together they unleashed their combined power upon the shard, the flames of Ram's legacy merging with Athena's divine light. The darkness shrieked, recoiling as the shard shattered into dust, but a final, echoing whisper lingered in the air, a promise of a return yet to come. Chapter 9: A World Reborn. Despite their victory, Athena knew that the void's influence had not been entirely purged. She looked upon Alaric and saw the same fire in his eyes that once burned in Ram's fierce desire to protect his people and their freedom. She realized that perhaps, just as she had learned from Ram's, she could learn from Alaric as well. Under Athena's guidance, Alaric and the new generation of mortals began to forge alliances with neighboring kingdoms. They worked to build a world that was not bound by the old gods, but one that respected the lessons of the past. Athena acted as a mentor rather than a ruler, teaching them the importance of balance and the dangers of unchecked ambition. The goddess even allowed herself moments of hope, believing that perhaps, one day, Argyria could become a realm where divine and mortal walked side by side, not as master and subject, but as equals. Alaric became a leader among his people, respected for his strength but revered for his compassion. And through him, the memory of Rams lived on not as a distant legend, but as a guiding light for the future. But deep beneath the earth, where the remnants of the void's essence lingered, a quiet darkness still stirred. It watched and waited, biding its time. A reminder that, in the shadows of light, the seeds of chaos could always take root once more. Chapter 10: The Gathering Storm. Alaric stood on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean, his cloak billowing in the wind. The waves crashed below, their rhythmic roar a reminder of the eternal struggle between order and chaos. Athena joined him, her divine form softened by time and experience. "You've become a great leader, Alaric," she said, her voice carrying a note of pride. "But the world is changing once again. The shadows linger." Alaric tightened his grip on his sword, its blue flame flickering in the night. "I won't let the darkness take root. If the void returns, I will be ready. We will be ready." Athena nodded, but her gaze remained distant. "Even so, we must prepare. The ancient darkness cannot be truly destroyed, only kept at bay. And it will test us again." Alaric glanced at her, a faint smile on his lips. "Then we'll face it together, goddess." In that moment, Athena realized that she no longer stood apart from the mortals she once sought to control. Through Ram's sacrifice and Alaric's resolve, she had found a new purpose, one that transcended the old hierarchies. She was not merely a guardian of wisdom, but a protector of those who dared to shape their own destiny. As the sun set over Egeria, casting long shadows over the land, a new chapter began. It was a time of uncertainty, of hope and danger intertwined, but it was theirs a future they would face together. Chapter 11: Echoes of Eternity. Years passed, and Egeria transformed, becoming a land where both the divine and the mortal found their place. Temples dedicated to Ram stood beside those of Athena, and legends of their battles were told as stories of growth, sacrifice, and redemption. But the echoes of the void never truly faded, lingering like a distant storm on the horizon. Alaric and Athena knew that peace was always temporary, that the balance they had achieved could tip at any moment. Yet they embraced each day with the knowledge that, for now, the darkness was held at bay by the light they carried within. And high above, in the night sky, the constellation of Rams continued to shine, a reminder to both gods and mortals of the price of freedom, and the enduring spirit of those who dare to dream of a better world. In the end, Egeria remained a place where light and shadow danced in eternal balance, where every choice shaped the fabric of fate. And in that balance, there lay a glimmer of hope that when the shadows gathered again, there would always be those who stood ready to fight, guided by the light of a saint who had once defied the heavens. Chapter 12: Shadows Awaken. The peace in Egeria persisted, but it was a fragile one, like a lull between distant thunderclaps. Alaric, now a seasoned leader, often found himself patrolling the borders of Lyra, ensuring that no trace of the void lingered in the dark corners of the world. Athena remained by his side, offering guidance but also learning to trust the decisions of mortals more deeply. But one evening, as twilight settled over the land, Alaric discovered a symbol carved into the ancient stones of an old shrine, a symbol that he recognized from Athena's stories, a mark of the void. It was faint, barely noticeable among the ivy-covered stones, but its presence sent a chill through him. He brought Athena to the site, and she traced the symbol with her fingers, her face tightening. "This is a calling sign," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Someone is trying to awaken the old powers." Alaric's hand moved instinctively to his sword. "Do you think it's the same force we encountered before?" Athena shook her head, uncertainty clouding her features. "I fear it may be something worse for someone who understands the nature of the void and seeks to use it. Mortals have always been curious about power, but they rarely understand its price." They followed the trail of symbols deeper into the wilds of Egeria, leading them to a hidden cave in the Blackwood forest, where the air was thick with an unsettling stillness. Inside they found a group of robed figures gathered around a pedestal, on which lay a new shard of obsidian, crackling with dark energy. The leader of the cult, a woman with eyes that burned with fanatic zeal, turned to face them. Her voice rang out, echoing in the chamber. "You cannot stop what is coming, goddess. The void is not an enemy, it is the true nature of existence, the darkness that lies beyond the veil of your precious order." Alaric's sword ignited with blue fire as he stepped forward. We've heard these lies before. The void brings nothing but ruin. The woman sneered. You think your flames can burn away the truth? The void is already within this world, buried in its very essence. You cannot banish what is a part of existence itself. Athena stepped beside Alaric, her eyes glowing with a golden light. If you release this power, you will condemn yourself and all you seek to protect. The cult leader merely laughed. Then let us embrace the end together. With a shout, she thrust her hand into the shard, shattering it. A shockwave of darkness erupted from the pedestal, sending Alaric and Athena reeling. Shadows coiled around the cultists, devouring their bodies, their screams swallowed by the rising darkness. The chamber filled with a cold, ancient voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, a voice that both recognized instantly. I am eternal. I am the silence between breaths. You cannot contain me, goddess. Not you, nor your champion. Chapter 13 The New War. The void surged forth from the cave, spreading like a dark stain across the forest, corrupting everything it touched. Trees twisted into monstrous shapes, their branches reaching like claws. Alaric and Athena fought their way out of the cave, their combined powers pushing back the encroaching shadows, but the void's influence continued to grow. In Lyra, panic spread as the sky turned a sickly hue, and whispers of the darkness reached the ears of the council. Alaric returned to the city, rallying the people to defend their home. Word spread quickly to neighboring kingdoms, and soon, an alliance of mortals gathered to resist the encroaching shadows. Athena, feeling the weight of her past failures, watched as the people prepared for war. Alaric caught her standing alone on the city walls, her gaze fixed on. Learned enough from RamZ to prevent this from happening again. But the void's nature is insidious. It thrives on the hidden fears and desires of mortals. Perhaps, in my efforts to guide your kind, I've failed to see how deeply those shadows can run. Alaric placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression resolute. The void may be part of this world, but it doesn't define us. We have the strength to fight it, and we have something it never will hope for, unity, and a reason to protect this world. Athena looked into his eyes and found the same fire that had once burned within RamZ. It was a reminder that, despite all her doubts, there was a power beyond the divine or the void, the will of those who fought not for themselves, but for the future of others. Nodding, she raised her hand, summoning a beacon of golden light that shone across the land, a rallying call to all who would stand against the darkness. Chapter 13 Battle Beneath a Darkened Sky. The armies of mortals gathered on the plains outside Lyra, their banners fluttering in the harsh wind, weapons gleaming under the shadowed sky. Athena and Alaric stood at the front lines, their figures illuminated by the ethereal glow of Athena's divine magic and the blue flames of RamZ's legacy. From the edge of the corrupted forest, the darkness poured forth, twisted beasts born from the void's corruption, shadowy echoes of creatures that had once been human. Among them strode the void-touched cultists, their eyes empty, bodies wreathed in dark energy. At their head, the voice of the void reverberated through the air, a mocking echo that seemed to speak directly into the minds of all who stood against it. You think you can defy the inevitable? Even now your light wavers. This world belongs to the shadows. With a rallying cry, Alaric charged forward, his sword blazing as he cleaved through the darkness, carving a path through the enemy lines. The flames of his blade cut through the shadow beasts, each strike dispersing the darkness like smoke in the wind. Athena followed, her spear a blur of radiant energy, striking down cultists who dared to approach her. The battle raged, a clash of light and darkness that stretched across the plains. Mortals fought with the fierce determination of those who knew that this war would determine the future of their world. Even as the void's power threatened to overwhelm them, they fought on, refusing to give in to despair. But the void's presence grew stronger, its influence seeping into the minds of the soldiers, turning friends against one another in sudden fits of madness. Alaric fought desperately, cutting down shadows that took the shape of his own fallen comrades, the weight of their loss heavy on his heart. He pressed on, his mind focused on one goal: to reach the heart of the darkness and end this once and for all. Chapter 15. Into the Abyss. Athena and Alaric pushed deep into the forest, where the shadows grew thickest. The air grew cold, and the sky above seemed to fold in on itself, as if they were walking into the mouth of an endless night. The whispers of the void grew louder, taunting them, reminding them of their failures, their doubts. "You cannot win! You are alone! Your strength means nothing here!" Alaric faltered, the weight of those words pressing down on him, but Athena placed her hand on his shoulder, her light pushing back the encroaching shadows. "You are not alone, Alaric. Remember what you fight for." Drawing strength from her words, Alaric steeled himself and pressed on. Together they reached the heart of the darkness, a blackened crater where the remnants of the shattered shard pulsed like a corrupted heart, feeding the shadows that consumed the land. The cult leader, now little more than a twisted vessel for the void's power, stood before it, her body barely recognizable beneath the seething darkness that enveloped her. "You cannot seal it this time," she rasped, her voice mingling with the void's whispers. "The darkness is already here. It has always been here." Alaric stepped forward, raising his flaming sword. "We will seal it again, and this time, we will make sure it never returns." With a roar, he plunged his blade into the dark heart, unleashing a torrent of blue fire that clashed against the void's power. Athena joined him, pouring all of her divine energy into the strike. Light and shadow collided, swirling around them as the forest shook and the very air trembled under the strain. Chapter 16. The Aftermath. The silence after the battle was deafening. Alaric and Athena stood amidst the clearing, the remnants of the shattered void swirling around them like ghostly dust. The air, once thick with fear and dread, now carried the scent of damp earth and blooming wildflowers. It was a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness that had enveloped the forests for so long. Alaric felt a strange emptiness within him, a void left by the intense struggle. He had faced his greatest fear, and emerged victorious, but the cost was high. The scars of the battle, both physical and emotional, were etched deep within him. He looked at Athena, her face pale and drawn, her eyes reflecting the exhaustion of a long and arduous fight. "We need to get out of here," she said, her voice hoarse. "And we need to find the others." Alaric nodded, his limbs heavy with fatigue. They had fought the darkness, but the war was far from over. The remnants of the cult, scattered and broken, would still pose a threat. They had to ensure that the seeds of darkness they had so painstakingly uprooted wouldn't take root again. They set out, navigating the now peaceful forest, their steps echoing in the stillness. As they walked, they could hear the distant sounds of birdsong and the rustling of leaves, a symphony of life that had been absent for so long. It was a reminder of the beauty they had fought to preserve, a beauty that now seemed all the more precious in the wake of the darkness. Chapter 17. Whispers of the Past. The journey back to the village was long and arduous. They encountered scattered remnants of the cult, weakened and disoriented, but still dangerous. Alaric and Athena fought with a fierce determination, their combined strength a testament to their shared purpose. As they approached the village, they were met with a wave of relief and gratitude. The villagers, who had been living in fear for so long, now celebrated their return as if they were returning heroes. But the joy was tinged with sadness. The village was in ruins, ravaged by the cult's influence. The once vibrant marketplace was now a desolate wasteland, the homes were scarred and broken, and the faces of the villagers were etched with pain and loss. Alaric felt a pang of guilt. He had been away, fighting the darkness, while the village had suffered. He had promised to protect them, and he had failed. But Athena, ever the beacon of hope, placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did what you had to do, Alaric," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You fought for them, and you saved them. Now it's time to rebuild." Chapter 18: Seeds of Hope. The task of rebuilding was daunting, but the villagers, spurred by the hope that Alaric and Athena had brought back, worked tirelessly. They cleared the debris, repaired the homes, and planted new seeds in the ravaged fields. The village, slowly but surely, began to heal. Alaric, still haunted by the memories of the battle, found solace in the rebuilding process. He channeled his grief and guilt into helping the villagers, working alongside them, sharing their burdens, and offering his strength whenever needed. Athena, with her divine wisdom and guidance, helped the villagers to understand the true nature of the darkness they had faced. She taught them how to recognize its subtle whispers, how to resist its insidious influence, and how to cultivate the light within themselves. As the village slowly began to thrive again, Alaric felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. He had not only saved the village from the darkness, but he had helped them to find their own light, to rise above the ashes of their past, and embrace a future filled with hope. Chapter 19: The Legacy of RamZ. One evening, as the villagers gathered around a bonfire, sharing stories and laughter, Alaric felt a familiar presence. It was RamZ, his spirit reaching out to him, a warm and comforting embrace. "You have done well, Alaric," RamZ's voice echoed in his mind. "You have carried the torch, and you have shown them the way. Now it is time for you to find your own path." Alaric looked up at the stars, the constellation of RamZ shining brightly overhead, a testament to the legacy of the warrior he had admired and loved. He knew that RamZ's spirit would always be with him, guiding him on his journey. He looked at the villagers, their faces illuminated by the firelight, their eyes filled with gratitude and hope. He knew that he had found his purpose, his place in the world. He would continue to fight for what was right, to protect the innocent, and to spread the light of hope wherever he went. Chapter 20: A New Beginning. The village, once a symbol of fear and despair, now stood as a beacon of hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Alaric, no longer just a warrior, but a leader, a protector, and a friend, stood at the heart of it all. He had found his place, his purpose, and his strength. He had learned that the darkness could be overcome, that even in the face of overwhelming odds, hope could prevail. And he knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within his soul, that the fight for a brighter future was just beginning. The story of Alaric, the warrior who faced the abyss and emerged victorious, became a legend, whispered from village to village, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the light of hope can always find a way to shine through. The End. Chapter 21: The Road of Flames. Dawn broke over Egeria in hues of gold and pale rose, casting long rays of light across the village that had risen from the ashes of despair. The people worked, laughed, and rebuilt with renewed purpose, yet even in the midst of their triumph, Alaric felt the familiar tug of restlessness deep within his chest. It was not fear, nor sorrow, something quieter, something calling. He stood at the edge of the village road, gazing toward the distant hills where the horizon met the awakening sky. His sword hung at his side, the blue flame within it dormant but warm, like a heartbeat waiting to quicken. Athena approached him silently, her steps soft on the fresh earth. "You're leaving," she said, not as a question, but as a truth she'd already accepted. Alaric lowered his eyes. "The battle is over, but my journey isn't. Not yet. There's something out there I need to understand." Athena studied him, her expression thoughtful. RamZ once said the same thing. He felt the need to walk the world, alone, before he could protect it. Alaric exhaled slowly. Maybe I'm more like him than I realized. The goddess stepped closer, her cloak brushing lightly against the breeze. The villagers will miss you. But more importantly, the world you saved will not stay still. Mortals grow. Kingdoms shift. Shadows linger. If you feel called to walk the lands, you should go. Growth does not come to those who wait behind walls. Alaric nodded, grateful for her understanding. There's more to the fire he left behind than just the sword. I can feel it. Sometimes in my dreams, sometimes in my steps. As if something is guiding me forward. He looked once more upon the village, the children playing near the restored fountain, the families tending to their gardens, the elders seated beneath the rebuilt hall where hope now lived instead of fear. It warmed him, yet it also reminded him that his path stretched beyond these borders. Athena placed a hand over her heart. Take this with you. A faint glow radiated from her fingertips, forming a small pendant shaped like a crescent flame. She set it gently into his palm. A token of protection. And a reminder that you do not walk this path alone. Alaric held it carefully. Thank you. As he turned toward the open road, Athena called after him, her voice steady but touched with a softness he had rarely heard from a goddess. Your journey will shape more than you realize, Alaric. Do not fear the unknown roads. He gave one last look back, a final farewell to the people whose trust had given him purpose. Then, with a steady breath, he stepped forward onto the winding path that led through forests, plains, and distant horizons. Each step felt lighter than the last. The morning wind brushed against his face like the whisper of an old friend, and the flame within his sword flickered to life, pulsing gently as if guiding him onward. Alaric smiled faintly. He didn't know where this road would take him, whether to peace, danger, or revelations hidden in forgotten corners of the world, but he felt ready. Ready to seek, to learn, to grow beyond the shadow of war. Ready to become something more than a warrior of light. A traveler of destiny. A protector forged not only by battle, but by understanding. And as the sun rose higher behind him, casting his silhouette long across the land, Alaric walked on. Toward a future written not by gods or darkness, but by the choices he would make with every step. Chapter 22 The Whispering Road. Alaric traveled for days across the rolling plains, where tall golden grasses danced in the wind like waves upon a sea. The land was peaceful, almost too peaceful. Yet with each mile he crossed, the faint stirring in his heart grew stronger, guiding him like an unseen compass. At night he set camp beneath ancient oaks whose branches spread wide like protective arms. The firelight flickered across his features, creating shifting shadows that made him look older, wiser, and a little more distant from the man he had been in Lyra. One evening, as he sharpened his blade beside a small stream, a soft whisper drifted through the trees. It was not the wind, not the rustling of leaves or the call of night birds. It was a voice. A voice he knew. Alaric! He froze, heart pounding. The air around him shimmered faintly, and a warm breeze swept through the clearing. RamZ. It couldn't be, but the presence was unmistakable. Alaric stood slowly. Are you here? A faint glow manifested above the stream, the water rippling in response. The light swirled, forming the shape of a warrior, tall, radiant, and calm. RamZ spirit. But his voice was distant, like an echo from another world. You walk a path that even I did not tread, RamZ said. The world changes, and you must change with it. Seek the monastery of Solinar. Your next answers lie there. Before Alaric could respond, the light faded, dissolving into drifting sparks that vanished among the trees. He exhaled slowly, gripping the hilt of his sword. Solanar. A forgotten name. A place spoken only in legends. And now it was calling him. Chapter 23. Monastery of Solanar. The monastery of Solanar lay hidden within the obsidian cliffs of the eastern ridge, a remote sanctuary carved into stone older than any kingdom of Egeria. Its tall spires rose like dark fingers into the sky, and the path leading up to it wound steeply between jagged boulders and narrow precipices. Alaric's steps echoed through the stone corridor as he passed beneath the entrance arch. To his surprise, the monastery was quiet, not abandoned, but silent in a way that felt purposeful. Monks dressed in robes of deep crimson walked with serene expressions, acknowledging him with slight bows as he passed. The air smelled faintly of incense and warm iron. At the center of the courtyard, an elderly monk awaited him, a man with silver hair, skin weathered by time, and eyes that burned with ancient knowledge. "Welcome, Alaric," the monk said. "I have waited for you." Alaric frowned. "How do you know my name?" The monk smiled softly. "Because RamZ once walked these halls. His presence lingers here still." Alaric's breath caught. "You knew him?" "I guided him in his youth," the monk replied. "And now I shall guide you." The monk led him through the monastery, past murals depicting battles against demons, gods, and primordial forces long forgotten. They stopped before a stone tablet marked with runes of flame. "This," the monk said, "is the path of the burning soul. It is a trial of spirit, a journey inward. If you wish to master the fire RamZ passed to you, you must face what burns within." Alaric placed a hand on the stone, and the world around him dissolved into darkness. Chapter 24. The Trial of Fire. Alaric stood in a vast chamber of shifting flame. Walls of fire roared around him, yet he felt no heat, only the intensity of emotions he had long buried. The flame changed colors rapidly, blue, gold, crimson, each hue resonating with a different part of his spirit. Then a figure stepped from the fire. At first, Alaric thought it was RamZ, but no, this figure wore his own face. A mirror of himself, yet darker, colder, eyes filled with doubt. "You think you can follow RamZ's path?" the reflection whispered. "You think you're worthy?" Alaric raised his sword, flames igniting along the blade. "I'm not trying to be him. But you fear you'll never escape his shadow." The chamber trembled. Flames surged. The reflection attacked, moving with speed that mirrored Alaric's own. Sparks flew as their blades clashed. Fire erupted beneath their feet, swirling around them in spirals of light and shadow. Each strike, each movement, forced Alaric to confront not the enemy, but himself. His fears. His doubts. His failures. As the reflection pressed him back, it hissed. "Without RamZ, you are nothing." Alaric staggered. Then steadied. Then roared. "I am Alaric, and I choose my own path." His blade erupted in brilliant blue flame, brighter than ever before. He struck with all his strength, not to destroy the reflection, but to embrace it. The dark image shimmered, then dissolved into light, merging with him. The flames around him dimmed. The chamber faded. And he awoke in the monastery courtyard, lying on warm stone. The elderly monk stood above him, smiling. "You have passed," he said softly. "The fire is yours now, not RamZ, not the gods, but your own." Alaric rose slowly, feeling a new warmth within his chest, steady, powerful, unyielding. He was no longer following RamZ's path. He was forging his own. Chapter 25. The Call of the Horizon. Alaric remained in Solanar for several days, learning the deeper teachings of the monks, how to channel the flame without losing himself, how to listen to the echoes of the world, how to walk with purpose rather than impulse. But the road continued to call him. One morning, as the sun rose above the cliffs, Alaric stood at the monastery gates, prepared once more to travel. The elderly monk approached him with a quiet smile. "Where will you go now?" Alaric adjusted the strap of his pack. "Wherever the path leads. There's more to this world than war and shadow. If I'm to protect it, I must know it." The monk nodded approvingly. "Then walk with open eyes, Alaric. The world is changing. And soon, it will need more than warriors, it will need leaders." Alaric bowed deeply, then turned toward the winding road that descended the cliffs. As he stepped onto the path, the flame within his sword pulsed gently, as if acknowledging his newfound resolve. The air felt clearer. The wind felt familiar. And the world seemed to stretch endlessly before him. He smiled to himself. This was not a journey to escape his past. It was a journey to discover his future. With steady steps, he walked forward into the early morning light. Toward distant lands, untold stories, and a destiny still waiting to be written. And so continued the journey of Alaric, bearer of the blue flame, traveler of unknown roads, and guardian of a world reborn. Chapter 26: Athena's Awakening. While Alaric journeyed across distant plains and ancient paths, Athena remained in Lyra, standing upon the quiet balcony overlooking the village she had helped save. The air carried the faint scent of morning dew, and the sky glowed with the soft radiance of dawn. Yet within the goddess, a stirring deeper and older than time itself began to awaken. She had guided mortals for centuries, sometimes with wisdom, sometimes with force, sometimes with hesitation. But for the first time, Athena felt something unfamiliar threading through her divine essence: uncertainty. Not of her strength, not of her purpose, but of her place in this changing world. The mortals no longer looked to the heavens as they once had. They looked to leaders, to each other, and often to Alaric. Athena closed her eyes, feeling the quiet hum of the world beneath her feet. "Times are shifting," she whispered, "and I must shift with them." A soft breeze brushed past her, carrying faint echoes of distant chants, voices from the old temples now fallen into disuse. For centuries, her identity had been shaped by worship, by reverence, by the divine order she had once enforced. Now she walked the earth in silence, observing, learning, changing. She descended from the balcony, moving through the streets of Lyra in her mortal guise. People bowed respectfully, not out of fear, but out of gratitude, even affection. Their smiles were warm, genuine, and unburdened. It was something new to her, and it warmed her in ways she could not fully name. At the edge of town, she found a small child holding a cracked wooden toy, its wing broken. The child blinked up at Athena with wide, uncertain eyes. Athena knelt beside him. "May I see it?" The child hesitated, then handed her the toy. Athena placed her fingers gently upon the broken wing, channeling the faintest spark of divine light. The wood reshaped, the cracks sealed, and the toy looked whole once more. The child gasped softly. "Thank you?" Athena smiled. "You're welcome." As the child ran off, laughter trailing behind him, Athena felt a subtle shift inside her. Once she had been a goddess of war, a figure feared as much as respected. Now, she found meaning in simple acts, in quiet moments that connected her to the mortals she once viewed from afar. Yet even as she embraced this newfound path, shadows stirred in the corners of her mind. A faint tremor shook the earth beneath her feet, so subtle that only her divine senses registered it. Athena straightened, eyes narrowing. "Something wakes," she murmured. Her gaze drifted toward the distant mountains where Alaric now traveled, and an unusual sensation rippled through her, an instinct she had not felt in ages. Concern. For him. For the world. For what might be coming. She raised her hand, summoning a soft sphere of golden light. It floated above her palm, trembling slightly like a heartbeat. Athena frowned. The light was unstable. Imbalanced. A warning. The world changes, and so must I, she whispered. But evolution comes with a price. She closed her hand, extinguishing the light. The goddess of wisdom had always believed herself prepared for any challenge. But now, for the first time since RamZ's sacrifice, Athena wondered. Not whether she could protect Egeria, but whether she herself was ready to face what awaited in the shifting dawn. Chapter 27 The Goddess in Shadows. Night settled over Lyra with a softness that belied the stirring unease beneath its calm. Athena walked alone through the outskirts of the village, her cloak trailing behind her as moonlight cast silver edges along its folds. Every step she took felt heavier, not from fatigue, but from the quiet weight of change pressing upon her immortal spirit. The goddess paused near the old shrine that once bore her symbol, a towering marble statue, crumbled now, overtaken by vines and moss. Once the mortals had prayed here for her guidance, her protection, her blessing. Now it stood silent, a relic of an age long past. Athena ran her fingers along the broken pedestal. The stone hummed faintly under her touch, resonating with memories she herself had begun to set aside. "Have I fallen so far?" she whispered. A flicker of golden light sparked beneath her palm, weak, unstable, writhing like a flame struggling to survive in a storm. She withdrew her hand sharply, unsettled. Her power was shifting, changing, responding to the new shape of the world. She closed her eyes, seeking clarity. Instead, she found a sensation that made her breath hitch. A shadow brushing across her mind, faint but deliberate. "Show yourself," she murmured. The wind grew still. The air thickened. And from the darkness beneath the broken shrine, a ripple of black mist unfurled like a living serpent. Athena's eyes widened. Not void. Not corruption. Something else. The mist gathered, forming the silhouette of a figure, tall, indistinct, shifting like smoke. A voice drifted from it, faint as a memory yet sharp as steel. Athena stood firm. "I do not answer to shadows." The silhouette tilted its head. "You already do. Your power fades because your purpose is no longer the same. You guide mortals, yes, but you are no longer above them." Athena's jaw tightened. "I choose this path. And choices," the figure whispered, "have consequences. You gave up your throne when you descended from Olympia. You stepped out of the divine order. Now the world reshapes you as easily as you once reshaped it." The goddess felt a tremor pulse through her core, a crack in her divine armor, a fissure she had ignored until now. "What are you?" she demanded. The mist withdrew, slipping back into the shadows like water returning to the depths. "A reminder," the voice breathed. "The world no longer bows to gods, and neither will destiny." Silence returned, leaving Athena alone beneath the shattered shrine. But the echo of the encounter lingered in her thoughts, unsettling her deeper than she cared to admit. She touched her chest, feeling the instability within her light, once unshakable, now unpredictable. Athena straightened, eyes sharp with determination. If the world sought to redefine her, then she would meet it head-on. "If destiny refuses to bow," she whispered, "then I will walk beside it, and shape it anew." With her cloak swirling behind her, Athena turned toward the east, where Alaric continued his journey across unknown lands. For the first time in centuries, Athena felt a need she had long forgotten. The need to walk her own path, not as a goddess above mortals, but as a being seeking purpose in a world remade by sacrifice, courage, and change. And somewhere in the shifting shadows of Egeria, destiny watched, waiting for the dawn of a goddess reborn. Chapter 28: The Path of Mortal Steps. Athena left Lyra under the faint glow of a crescent moon, her cloak sweeping softly over the earth as she walked. No divine chariot parted the clouds for her, no thunderbolts roared her departure. She traveled on foot, deliberately, quietly, each step a reminder of how profoundly she had chosen to change. Once she had moved through the world like a storm. Now, she walked as a lone figure beneath the stars. The night air hummed with the distant symphony of crickets and rustling leaves. Each sound grounded her, reminding her that she was no longer an untouchable force but a presence among the living. And she welcomed it. For the first time in her immortal life, Athena felt the weight of the soil beneath her boots, the chill of wind across her skin, the subtle ache in her limbs after hours of walking. She touched the side of her cloak, drawing it closer around her. "Strange," she murmured, "to feel so small, and yet so alive." But her peace was short-lived. Hours into her journey, the shadows of the forest deepened, curling like fingers around the trees. Athena paused. Something was wrong, not a threat, but a memory, rippling through the world like an old heartbeat returning. A faint glow flickered between the trees. Curious, Athena stepped toward it, brushing aside branches until she emerged into a small clearing bathed in soft silver light. At the center stood an old, weathered statue, broken, half consumed by moss, but unmistakable. It was a statue of her. Not the warrior goddess. Not the strategist of Olympia. But her earliest form, Athena the seer, the gentle guide of lost shepherds and wandering souls. The sight struck her like a forgotten melody returning after centuries of silence. She traced the cracked stone with her fingertips. "I had almost forgotten this part of myself." As her hand rested upon the statue, a warmth spread through her palm, a pulse of old divinity, soft and familiar. The ancient stone glowed faintly, responding to her presence. But instead of strengthening her, the light tugged at her essence, testing its shape, seeking something that was no longer there. The statue dimmed. And Athena understood. She was changing so quickly that even old symbols of her power no longer recognized her. For a moment, she felt a stab of fear, raw and sharp. What will I become, if even my own nature shifts beyond my reach? The wind answered with a whisper. A name. Alaric. The breeze carried it gently, almost tenderly, as if the world itself were guiding her toward him. Athena exhaled, gathering her resolve. If the shadows of her identity were unraveling, then she would seek clarity. If destiny questioned her place, she would seek its meaning. If Alaric's journey was tied to her own evolution, then she must walk both paths. Turning away from the statue, Athena stepped back onto the forest trail, her gaze fixed on the distant mountains where her instincts guided her. The goddess walked on. Not as a ruler. Not as a relic of old divinity. But as a seeker stepping into the unknown. And for the first time, Athena felt the quiet thrill of discovery, not as an immortal above the world, but as a soul evolving within it. Chapter 29: Fractures of Divinity. Dawn found Athena deep within the ancient forest, where sunlight filtered through the trees in soft beams that danced upon the moss-covered ground. She moved with purpose, yet each step felt strangely heavier than the last. A quiet ache pulsed through her body, not pain, but something deeper, something unfamiliar. Her divine essence was shifting, changing, becoming something new. As she walked, the forest grew older around her. The trees thickened, their roots twisting like serpents across the earth. The scent of ancient bark and damp stone filled the air, and a stillness settled over the woods as though the forest itself was holding its breath. Athena paused, sensing it before she saw it. A crack in reality. A thin vertical line shimmering like molten gold, hovering in the air just beyond a fallen log. It pulsed gently, as if breathing. She stepped closer. A temporal fracture. This was no mortal phenomenon. Nor was it of the void. It was hers. A tear formed from her own shifting power, instability manifesting outward. Athena reached out cautiously, her fingertips brushing the glowing fracture. A surge of energy erupted, racing through her arm and into her chest. She gasped, staggering back as memories, centuries of them, flashed through her mind in a torrent of overwhelming clarity. Battles, victories, sacrifices. Moments she had long buried. Faces she had forgotten. Her divine form flickered, the edges of her body glowing with unstable light. She fell to one knee, clutching the earth as the world around her spun. My power, it's unraveling! The fracture pulsed again, expanding like a widening wound. Through it, Athena saw shapes, echoes of possible futures, some bright, others devastating. In one vision, she stood as a mortal, stripped of all divinity. In another, she towered as a force beyond anything Egeria had ever known, fearful, unbound, and cold. In a third, she walked beside Alaric, her divine and mortal aspects balanced in harmony. The visions collapsed into darkness. Athena clenched her fists, breathing through the shock. She forced herself back to her feet, though her legs trembled beneath her. This was no simple transformation. It was a metamorphosis, dangerous, unpredictable, and beyond her full understanding. As her breath steadied, she sensed movement behind her. A faint shimmer rippled through the trees. A familiar presence. Athena. The voice was soft, almost tender. RamZ's spirit. His form manifested in a swirl of light, brighter than before, as though the shifting world granted him greater clarity. The goddess froze, her heart tightening. RamZ, you're still here. His ghostly eyes held hers. Only because the world needs you, and because you need guidance. Why is this happening to me? She whispered. Why now? RamZ stepped closer, his light flickering as if straining to maintain form. Because you chose to walk with mortals. Because you changed the shape of your destiny. And the world responds to such choices. Athena's voice trembled. I fear what I might become. RamZ reached out, not touching her, yet his presence wrapped around her like warmth. Do not fear evolution. Fear stagnation. Fear the refusal to grow. The fracture pulsed again, echoing his words. You stand at a crossroads, RamZ said. One path will break you. One will rebirth you. And one will connect you to a mortal whose journey mirrors your own. Athena's breath caught. Alaric. RamZ smiled faintly. He will need you, and you will need him. Not as goddess and mortal, but as two souls redefining the world together. The light of his form flickered violently. Athena, choose your path. And with a final flare, RamZ vanished. The fracture closing behind him like an eye gently shutting. Athena stood alone in the silent forest, her heart racing, her power trembling, her destiny shifting like a storm-touched flame. She raised her gaze toward the distant mountains, toward the path Alaric walked. And for the first time, she felt not the certainty of a goddess, but the determination of a soul searching for its place in a world reborn. Chapter 30 Converging Destinies. Alaric descended from the cliffs of Solinar beneath the early morning sun, the light catching the blue flame within his sword with each measured step. The wind carried a crisp scent of pine and distant rain, guiding him toward the valley below. He felt calmer now, more centered, more aware of the quiet rhythm of the world around him. Yet something tugged at his spirit. A faint pull. A presence he could not name, yet felt unmistakably Athena. Though he had traveled far from Lyra, though the mountains rose between them like stone giants, he felt her essence brushing against his thoughts, unsteady, shifting, almost fragile. He stopped on the trail, tightening his grip on his cloak. Is she in danger, or changing? He could not tell. But he knew he could not ignore it. With renewed determination, he headed east, toward the forests where her essence flickered like a candle in the wind. Underscore 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 underscore. Athena stood upon a ridge of ancient stone, the forest stretching endlessly below her. Her power pulsed irregularly beneath her skin, surging in waves that felt almost like a heartbeat out of rhythm. The encounter with RamZ's spirit had shaken her, but not with fear. With truth. She no longer walked the path of the goddess she had been, nor the goddess Olympia had forged. She was becoming something else entirely. A destiny shaped alongside mortals, she whispered to the wind. The idea once would have seemed beneath her. Now it felt right. She lowered her hood, letting the cold breeze tangle her dark hair as she gazed toward the east. She felt him too. Alaric. His flame burned with a newly tempered strength, its light reaching her through the shifting currents of power that flowed across Egeria. She had no divine vision to glimpse his exact path, no throne from which to observe the world. And yet, she sensed him. Their destinies, once distant, were drawing together again. Not by prophecy, not by divine order, but by choice. Underscore 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 underscore. By midday, Alaric reached the edge of the forest where Athena had once walked. The air felt charged, shimmering with remnants of her divine light, flickering like sparks drifting through the leaves. He knelt, touching the earth where the light pooled faintly. Athena was here, but the presence felt fractured. Not fading, but transforming. As he rose, the forest shifted. The trees leaned subtly toward him. The air thickened with quiet expectation. A path opened before him, not carved by hands or weather, but by intent. By destiny. Alaric drew a steady breath. Then I'll follow. Underscore 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 underscore. Athena, miles ahead, paused suddenly as a warmth spread through her chest. It was gentle, steady, like a hand placed over her heart. Not divine. Not celestial. Human. Alaric's presence brushed against her evolving essence, anchoring her unstable power, steadying the tremors within her core. She closed her eyes, exhaling softly. So, it is you who steadies me now. A small smile curved her lips, subtle, rare, almost fragile. The goddess looked toward the forest's edge, sensing him drawing near. Their journeys, once separate rivers, now flowed toward a single point. Not by celestial decree, not by divine will, but by the silent call of two souls changing in a world that demanded evolution from them both. Athena stepped forward, her cloak trailing behind her as the wind shifted at her back. "Alaric," she murmured, "come find me." And somewhere within the deep, whispering forest, the flame-bearer quickened his pace. Driven by instinct, guided by connection, and unaware that the woman he sought was no longer just a goddess, but a new force still unfolding with every step she took. Chapter 31: The Meeting of Paths. The forest stretched before Alaric like a living labyrinth, its towering trees bending inward as though acknowledging his presence. Every step he took seemed guided by an unseen current, one that pulsed with a familiar warmth. That warmth belonged to her. He followed it deeper into the woods, where sunlight barely peeked through the dense canopy. The quiet hum of insects and distant birdsong echoed softly, but beneath it all was a deeper resonance, Athena's shifting power, flowing like a heartbeat through the land. Alaric paused beside an ancient oak whose roots twisted like ancient veins across the forest floor. He placed a hand on the rough bark. "Athena, I'm close," he whispered. The tree shuddered, its branches releasing a faint shimmer of golden dust that drifted toward the east. A sign. Or perhaps a call. Alaric followed. Underscore 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 underscore. Athena stood within a clearing bathed in twilight light, though the sun had not yet set. Her presence bent the glow of the world around her like a prism, refracting it into warm golds and deep ambers. She felt the world through new senses now, through vibrations in the air, through whispers in the leaves, through the trembling threads that wove all living things together. Her evolution had begun to rewrite her very essence. She no longer felt like the goddess she had been, nor the woman she was becoming. Somewhere between, she walked the line. As she closed her eyes, a ripple of warmth brushed against her spirit, steady, familiar, grounding. Alaric. Her heart tightened, not with fear, but with a strange anticipation. "He's coming," she murmured. "And he will see me, as I am now." The thought unsettled her more than the shifting of her divinity. For centuries, she had been unshakable, untouchable. But Alaric's presence carved through her defenses with an ease she could not explain. A goddess did not fear being seen. Yet Athena did. Underscore 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 underscore. Branches parted behind her with a soft rustle. A quiet step followed. Another. Athena turned. Alaric emerged from the shadowed trail, breath soft, eyes widening as they fell upon her. The fading light caught her silhouette, illuminating her cloak, her hair, the faint gold flickering beneath her skin like starlight trapped in mortal form. He froze, not in fear but in awe. "Athena!" Her voice was steady, though her heart trembled. "Alaric!" He stepped closer, eyes searching her as though sensing the change without fully understanding it. "You feel different," he murmured. "Your presence, it's not what it was." Athena looked down at her hands, watching faint sparks of golden energy pulse across her skin before fading. "I'm changing," she said softly. "My divinity is shifting. I am becoming something new. Something I don't fully understand. Alaric closed the distance between them with slow, purposeful steps. Are you in danger? She met his gaze, surprised by the depth of concern there. I do not know. But I fear the outcome depends on the path I choose. Alaric reached out, hesitant at first, before placing a hand over hers. His touch was warm, steadying, a grounding point amidst the swirling chaos within her. You're not alone, he said. Whatever you face, I'll walk with you. Her breath caught. For a moment, the trembling of her essence eased, her unstable power aligning as though responding to him. Athena lifted her eyes to meet his, something unspoken passing between them, something deeper than duty, older than destiny. Then our paths converge, she whispered. Alaric nodded. And from here, we face whatever comes next together. In that quiet forest clearing, as twilight brushed the world with shades of amber and gold, goddess and warrior stood side by side. Not as deity and mortal. Not as leader and follower. But as two evolving souls drawn toward a single horizon. And the world, sensing their union, shifted with them. A new chapter of fate had begun. Rooted in change. In connection. And in the unraveling evolution of a goddess reborn. Chapter 32. The Resonance of Two Souls. The forest clearing hummed with a subtle energy as Alaric and Athena stood side by side. Though the world around them remained still, the air between them crackled, an invisible current that seemed to braid their auras together. Athena felt at first a gentle pull, like gravity shifting toward him. Her divinity, fractured and uncertain, responded instinctively to Alaric's steady presence. The golden aura beneath her skin brightened, stabilizing in his proximity. She inhaled softly. Your flame, it resonates with mine. Alaric glanced at her, brows slightly furrowed. Is that a good thing? She hesitated. It is unexpected. He stepped closer without thinking, and Athena felt her pulse quicken. Her power rippled outward before wrapping inward again, pulling tight around her heart. His presence made her feel grounded, and uncomfortably exposed. Athena, Alaric said gently, tell me what you're afraid of. She looked away, struggling to voice what centuries of divinity had never required her to articulate. Her fears had always been distant concepts, not tangible truths. But now she felt too mortal to hide. I fear, she said softly, that if my divinity reshapes itself, I will no longer be myself. I will lose pieces of who I was. Alaric reached out, placing his hand lightly on her shoulder. You won't lose yourself. You'll find a new version of you. His words were simple, yet they anchored her more than any divine prophecy. She turned to him, and for a moment, the shifting world quieted. Then let us walk forward, Athena said, not as goddess and warrior, but as two souls seeking the same truth. Alaric nodded, flame flickering in his eyes. Together. Underscore 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 underscore. As they left the clearing, the forest parted gently before them. Leaves shimmered with golden and blue motes of light, mirroring the mingling of their energies. Their destinies, once separate, now walked the same path. But unseen by either of them, a ripple of darkness stirred deeper within the woods, responding to Athena's unstable divinity and the powerful resonance the two now shared. A new presence awakened in the shadows. Watching. Waiting. Drawn to the union of goddess and mortal like a predator drawn to blood. Chapter 33 The Stirring in the Dark. As Athena and Alaric journeyed through the thickening forest, the air grew cold. Not the natural chill of dusk, but something sharper, like a blade brushing against the spine of the world. Alaric stopped suddenly. "Do you feel that?" Athena narrowed her gaze, her senses widening. A pulse of shadow rippled through the roots beneath them, threading through the earth like a living thing. "Yes," she murmured. "Something wakes." The wind died. The birds fell silent. The forest exhaled a long, trembling breath. A shadow detached itself from the trees, tall, thin, shifting like smoke wrapped in the shape of a humanoid figure. Athena's heart clenched. The presence matched the whisper she had encountered near the broken shrine. "You again," she said, her voice sharp. The figure tilted its head, its form flickering like dying firelight. "I warned you, Athena. When gods evolve, the world adapts. Power left unbalanced is power that awakens predators." Alaric stepped forward, sword igniting with blue flames. "Speak plainly." The entity turned toward him. Its hollow face pulsed with an eerie glow. "You should not stand so close to her, mortal. Her transformation will demand a cost." Athena's eyes hardened. "Enough riddles. What are you?" Its voice whispered like leaves torn in a storm. "A reflection of imbalance. A shadow formed from the parts of you that no longer fit your new shape." Athena froze. "You are my discarded divinity?" The shadow bowed its formless head. "Once I was part of your essence. Now I am something else, something hungry." Alaric's grip tightened on his blade. "What do you want?" The figure's form twisted, the forest around it trembling. "To consume what remains of the old, and everything that anchors you to the new." Its hollow gaze drifted to Alaric. Athena stepped protectively in front of him, power flickering across her skin. "You will not touch him." The shadow laughed, a low, echoing rasp. "Then let the evolution begin." It dissolved into mist, leaving only a lingering chill in its wake. Athena stood motionless, her breath uneven. Alaric placed a hand on her arm. "Athena, what does it mean?" She turned to him, fear flickering behind her eyes. "It means my evolution has consequences neither of us expected." She looked toward the path ahead, expression firming. "And we must face them together." Chapter 34 A Goddess Unraveling. The forest grew quieter as they walked, and Athena's steps became heavier. Golden light flickered beneath her skin in irregular pulses, like a lantern fighting against a storm. Alaric watched her carefully. "Athena, your light." "I know." Her voice was strained, a current of frustration underlying each word. "When that shadow appeared," she continued, "it pulled at something inside me. Something old. Something I thought I had outgrown." Alaric slowed his pace, his eyes fixed on her trembling hands. "What can I do?" She hesitated, her breath shallow. "You already are." But the light beneath her skin surged again, more violently this time. She gasped, clutching her chest as a wave of unstable energy rippled outward, bending the trees and sending leaves spiraling like fireflies caught in a gale. Alaric rushed to her side, steadying her. "Athena!" She dropped to one knee, golden cracks racing up her arms like glowing fractures. "I'm changing too fast. The energy, my essence, it's tearing itself apart." Her power burst outward again, sending a shockwave through the woods. Alaric shielded her, digging his heels into the earth. "Stay with me. Athena, stay with me." Her vision blurred. The world dimmed. Her body trembled as the golden fissures deepened. "I can't." Alaric grabbed her shoulders, his voice fierce. "Yes, you can. I won't let you fall into darkness. You're not alone in this." Her breath hitched, and for a moment, the uncontrolled energy stilled. The cracks pulsed once, twice, then slowly sealed, glowing faintly beneath her skin. Athena collapsed into his arms, exhausted but conscious. "You stabilized me," she whispered. Alaric brushed a trembling strand of hair from her face. "Because your power reacts to mine. We balance each other." She met his eyes, vulnerable, shaken, but resolute. "Then our destinies are bound more tightly than I realized." Alaric nodded. "And whatever is coming, we face it together." Athena exhaled a long, steadying breath. "I must learn to control this new power, before it destroys me." They rose together, the path before them darkening like a warning etched into the land. For in the shadows behind them, the entity formed from Athena's discarded divinity watched with growing hunger. Chapter 35: The Birth of a New Divine. They reached the edge of the forest as dawn lit the horizon in hues of pale gold and deep violet. The sky seemed to tremble with anticipation, as if the world itself sensed the turning of an era. Athena stood at the tree-line, her cloak fluttering around her like wings made of shadow and light. Her eyes burned brighter than before, no longer purely divine, no longer mortal. Something in between. Something unprecedented. Alaric watched her with equal awe and concern. "How do you feel?" She closed her eyes. "Different. Clearer, and yet more fragmented." She pressed a hand to her chest. "My identity is dividing itself. The old Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, is unraveling. The new Athena is still forming." Alaric stepped closer. "And what does that mean for us?" She opened her eyes, meeting his with a rare softness. "It means I need you now more than I ever have." A faint shimmer circled her, forming a halo of gold that flickered like a candle flame. But instead of steadying, the light twisted, unpredictable, wild. Alaric reached for her hand. "Let me help you shape it." Her fingers trembled as they intertwined with his. And instantly, the chaotic light around her calmed. Not disappeared, but aligned. Transformed. Athena gasped as a surge of balanced energy coursed through her like a new heartbeat. "What was that?" Alaric smiled faintly. "Our powers, they're connected now." Athena looked at their joined hands, realization dawning like the sunrise behind them. "I am no longer a goddess shaped by worship," she whispered. "Nor by Olympus." The light around her pulsed once. A heartbeat of pure potential. "I am becoming a new divine, one shaped by choice, by connection, and by the path I walk with you." Alaric squeezed her hand. "Then let's walk it together." As the sun rose fully over the horizon, Athena's evolving form gleamed with radiant gold and deep shadows. A being reborn not through fear or power, but through transformation and unity. And in the distant darkness of the forest behind them, the shadow entity stirred. For every new divine born, a new enemy was destined to awaken. Chapter 36: The World Beyond the Horizon. The rising sun cast golden light across the hills as Alaric and Athena walked beyond the forest's edge, stepping onto an open plain that stretched toward the distant horizon. The landscape felt broader than before, alive with quiet winds carrying scents of salt, strange herbs, and foreign soil. Egeria was larger than either had allowed themselves to remember. And now, as Athena's evolving divinity pulsed softly beneath her skin, the world responded. Opening itself. Revealing its hidden depths. Athena paused, feeling a tremor in the air that vibrated through her bones. "Alaric," she said quietly, "the world is changing. Expanding. Even the map of this realm grows anew." Alaric looked at her, eyes narrowing. "You mean the land itself is shifting?" She nodded. "Old borders stir. Walls of mist fall. Kingdoms hidden by divine decree, awakening. As they climbed a low ridge, an astonishing sight spread before them. Far across the plains, shimmering white clouds formed towering vertical columns. Suspended atop them were floating islands. Massive land masses drifting like serene giants in the sky. Cities glistened upon them. Tall silver spires. Wind bridges. Airships drifting along translucent cloud roads. Alaric stared, stunned. Sky kingdoms? Athena exhaled. Etherean. A realm lost to mortals since before Olympus first rose. The floating kingdoms drifted slowly across the heavens, connected by lines of lightning and shimmering currents. They vanished ages ago, Athena said, sealed the way to avoid the wars of gods and mortals. But now they return. A sudden gust of wind whipped across the ridge, carrying with it the distant echo of horns, deep, resonant, ancient. As they continued walking, the land sloped downward toward the coast. The sea glimmered in shades of teal and silver, and vast ships cut across the distant waters. Not ordinary vessels. Their sails glowed with runes, and their hulls were forged from shimmering blue metal. The tide-borne fleets, Athena murmured. Seafaring nations older than the kingdoms of men, descendants of those who once bargained with the primordial oceans. Alaric shielded his eyes against the sun, watching as a colossal ship with sails like wings glided across the waves. And there, returning too? Not returning, she corrected. Reawakening. But beneath the awe and grandeur, a chill swept through Athena's spirit, a pulse of something deep, ancient, and terribly wrong. It came from the east. From the dark waters beyond the horizon. A presence older than every god she had known. Older than the void, older than the celestial pantheons. A primordial corruption. A hunger. Alive. Alaric sensed her sudden stillness. Athena? She whispered, voice barely audible. There's something in the sea, something ancient. A creature tied to the void's first breath. Something even the gods once feared. A low tremor rumbled through the plains, so faint that only Athena felt it. The sky kingdoms awaken, she continued softly. The seafaring nations stir. And with them, the ancient horrors that slept beneath the world. Far behind them, in the shadows of the forest they had left, another figure emerged from the darkness. A lone woman wearing tattered robes stitched with symbols of the void. Her face was scarred, half-burned, but her eyes burned with fanatic fire. The surviving cult leader. She knelt before the lingering imprint of Athena's unstable divinity on the forest floor, touching it reverently. Mother of shadows, your cast-off power has grown. Her grin stretched unnaturally wide. And I shall raise it in your name. Behind her, other figures stepped out from the trees. Survivors, zealots, broken followers who had crawled through darkness to serve the remnants of the old cult. The woman raised her arms toward the sky. Dark mist swirled around her fingers. Rise, herald of the primordial night. The goddess evolves. The world expands. And the shadows shall claim what she leaves behind. The ground trembled. A distant roar echoed from beneath the sea. A sound older than the gods themselves. And the cult leader's eyes gleamed with victory. The age of hidden kingdoms had returned. And so had the age of ancient nightmares. Chapter 37 The Sky Kingdoms Stir. The wind shifted as Alaric and Athena stepped onto the open plains that led toward the coast, but the currents above them changed first, long before either noticed the subtle shift in the earth. High overhead, the floating isles of Etherean slowed, their enormous silhouettes drifting into formation like titanic ships adjusting course. Though distant, the movement felt intentional. Coordinated. Watching. Athena's eyes narrowed. They sense me. Alaric glanced upward as colossal shadows passed across the land, cast by the drifting islands. The Sky Kingdoms? Yes. Her voice tightened. They were sealed away long before mortals built cities. They remember the gods, all of us. They remember my old self. A low hum vibrated through the air, deep, resonant, like the heartbeat of the heavens themselves. A bright line of lightning arced outward from one of the sky isles, striking a cloud and illuminating a towering fortress suspended in golden mist. A city. No, an empire aloft. Alaric gazed in astonishment. You said they hid from the world? They did. Athena's gaze hardened. And now they awaken because they feel the return of something older than gods. Something they once fled. A sudden shift in the wind carried a sound down to them. The tolling of bells from the sky. Bright, metallic, echoing across miles. Athena's eyes widened. No, not bells. Alaric frowned. Then what? Aetherian's arbiters are mustering. She turned slowly toward him, her expression grave. They only prepare for war. As if in answer, shimmering gates of light formed beneath 3 of the sky isles. Figures descended through them. Not falling. Not flying. But walking upon golden pathways that appeared in the air. Tall silhouettes. Armor made of storm-forged silver. Helms crowned with crackling lightning. Sky arbiters. Warriors who once served the old divine order, and sometimes defied it. And now, they were descending back into the world. Alaric tightened his grip on his cloak. Are they hostile? Not without reason, Athena said quietly. But their return means they sense the primordial corruption. As if the word summoned it, a chill swept across the plains. The grass bent toward the east, trembling. Far beyond the coastline, the distant sea suddenly darkened, as though an immense shadow shifted beneath the waves. The air thickened. The sky dimmed. And from above, the sky arbiters halted on their golden paths, turning their helmed faces toward the horizon in unison. Athena felt it first. A pulse of ancient hunger. Older than the gods. Older than the celestial pantheons. Older than creation itself. A voice rose faintly from the distant sea, low, rumbling, echoing across the world like a whisper carried by mountains. RNNNN. Alaric shuddered. What was that? Athena whispered the name with dread. The deep maw. The primordial corruption. The first hunger. The formless being that birthed the earliest void creatures, long before the gods shaped the world. But they were not the only ones who sensed the awakening. Deep in the forest they had left behind, the surviving cult leader raised her arms toward the sky, her torn robes fluttering violently. Her followers knelt behind her, broken zealots, their eyes gleaming with unnatural devotion. The ground trembled beneath them as cracks of darkness spread like veins in the soil. Do you feel it? She hissed, madness and triumph mingling in her tone. The primordial returns. The true master beyond gods and shadows. She held up a shard of swirling black light. Athena's discarded divinity, corrupted and alive. A pulse of ancient hunger surged through the shard, resonating with the distant roar of the deep maw. The cult leader smiled. Let the world tremble. We shall feed the new god. Behind her, the darkness thickened, shattering trees, warping stone, reshaping the forest into a throne of living shadow. The cult of the forgotten dawn was reborn. And their god was no longer a rumor whispered by the broken. It was awakening. Chapter 38. The Tideborne Warning. The wind carried the scent of the sea long before Alaric and Athena reached the coast. But it was not the familiar salt scent of calm waves. No, this was sharper, colder, tinged with a metallic tang that burned faintly in the lungs. Athena's expression hardened. The ocean remembers what sleeps beneath it. As they climbed a high dune overlooking the shoreline, the world unfolded before them, vast waters rolling beneath a storm-painted sky. The tide-borne fleets dotted the horizon, their ruined sails glowing a ghostly blue as they cut through the waves. Alaric stared in awe. The seafaring nations. Athena nodded. The tide-borne dominion. Their ships once carried magic older than the gods. Thunder rumbled. But there were no storm clouds. Only the sea shifting in unnatural patterns. One of the nearest ships, the colossal vessel with wing-shaped sails, turned sharply toward the shore. Blue flames erupted from the runes etched along its hull, slowing the ship just offshore. A horn bellowed, deep, mournful, resonating through the bones. A platform of water rose beside the ship, shaped like a staircase by ancient ocean magic. Upon it stood 3 tide-borne envoys, cloaked in shimmering azure robes, skin marked with glowing maritime sigils. Their eyes reflected the deep. Athena stepped forward. Tide-borne emissaries. It has been centuries. The lead envoy bowed, though his expression was strained with tension. Goddess Athena, though you feel changed. Her jaw tightened. You sense it as well? Yes, he replied grimly. The currents shift. The old scars of the ocean break open. Alaric stepped beside her. What did you see? The envoy glanced at him, curious, wary, before answering. The deep maw stirs. The primordial hunger. Before gods and void, it devoured worlds drowned in darkness and salt. Alaric's pulse quickened. You saw it? The envoy shook his head. No mortal sees the creature and lives. But we saw the signs. He gestured toward the distant horizon. The water boils where no fire touches. The waves recoil as if pushed by a massive body. Creatures unknown to the sea, bone-white and eyeless, rise and vanish in the storms. Another envoy stepped forward, voice trembling. We saw a maw, opening beneath the surface. A circle of jagged teeth like the roots of a dying tree. Athena clenched her fists. It's breaching? No, the lead envoy whispered. It is summoning. At that moment, the sea surged violently. The water churned as if boiling from the abyss. A towering column of black water erupted far out at sea, twisting like a storm-touched serpent. Alaric stepped forward, sword half drawn. What is that? The tide-borne envoy's face blanched. A herald. A harbinger of the maw. A creature from the time before time. Athena's breath caught. The creature was massive. A towering silhouette of shifting darkness, dripping seawater that steamed as it hit the waves. Its limbs were long and malformed, ending in hooked bone tips. Its chest pulsed with a cavity of swirling void. And its head was a gaping circle of teeth, ringed like a halo of hunger. Alaric braced himself, heat rising from his sword. Is it coming for us? No, Athena whispered. Not yet. The creature's head swung toward the coast, sensing Athena's unstable divinity from across miles. A sound tore through the air. A piercing, guttural shriek that cracked the clouds above. The tide-borne envoys dropped to one knee in terror. It has sensed the goddess reborn. The herald shattered into a shower of steaming water, vanishing, returning to the deep. But not before its shriek echoed through every corner of the world. Far inland, deep in the forest of shadows, the surviving cult leader heard the distant cry. She rose slowly, dark mist curling around her. The primordial has awakened. Her followers knelt, trembling as the ground shook. The cult leader lifted the shard of corrupted divinity, Athena's discarded fragment. Now pulsing with the same rhythm as the ocean's roar. A manic smile broke across her scarred face. And it calls to me. Darkness gathered, crackling around her like living flame. Rise, ancient heralds! Let the goddess and her chosen warrior feel the approach of the first hunger. The shadows roared in answer. The cult was not merely reborn. It was becoming a force tied directly to the primordial corruption itself. On the shore, Athena steadied herself. Alaric placed a hand on her back, grounding her. Athena, what happens now? She looked toward the boiling horizon, her eyes glowing with shifting gold and shadow. No, she whispered. We face a threat older than creation. And the world will need more than gods or mortals. She turned to him. A goddess evolving, a woman trembling, a force awakening. It will need us. Chapter 39 The Herald in Shadows. Deep within the forest that once knew silence, the ground trembled as a new darkness took shape. The surviving cult leader stood at the center of a circle of corrupted earth, the shard of Athena's discarded divinity clutched tightly in her scarred hand. The air around her warped, twisting like wet cloth wrung by invisible hands. Her followers, gaunt, trembling, reverent, surrounded her in a wide ring. Their bodies bore symbols burned into their skin, marks of the void's return. Some whispered prayers. Others shook with feverish anticipation. The cult leader raised the shard. It pulsed with black gold light, flickering in perfect rhythm with the deep roar beneath the sea. Hear me, primordial of the abyss, she murmured, her voice both reverent and manic. Your herald of water rises. Now let the herald of shadow awaken. The earth split beneath her feet. A fissure opened, a vertical mouth of darkness, swallowing light as if drinking it. The air grew cold. The trees bowed inward. The cultists dropped to their knees. Dark mist seeped from the crack and gathered at the cult leader's feet, swirling like ink. Guide us, she whispered, eyes wild. Choose us. The shard vibrated violently, then shattered in her hand like brittle glass. Black gold fragments embedded themselves into her flesh. She screamed, but not in pain, in exultation. From the fissure, something began to climb. Slow, deliberate. First came fingers, long, skeletal, made of shifting shadow. Then a malformed hand. Then a torso covered in what looked like ancient stone, cracked and pulsing with void light. A creature emerged. Not as large as the Sea Herald, but far more dangerous. A herald of shadow. A being once banished by the gods long before Olympus rose. It stood twice the height of a man, its form dripping darkness that devoured whatever it touched. Its head was faceless. A void where a face should be, swirling like a vortex. The cult leader stepped forward, utterly unafraid. Born of the forgotten dawn, she whispered, and awakened by the goddess's cast-off light. The creature's head turned toward her, the swirling void pulling leaves, stones, even air into its silent gravity. She smiled. You belong to me now. The herald bowed to her. Not in loyalty, but in recognition. A pact formed. A bond forged from corruption older than gods. Far beyond the forest, Athena stiffened suddenly. She felt a sharp tear inside her, a piece of herself now twisted into something monstrous. Her knees weakened. Alaric caught her immediately. Athena, what happened? She closed her eyes, pain flickering across her expression. My discarded divinity, it's no longer just corruption. Her fingers trembled. It has become a creature. A herald. Alaric tensed. A void-born? No, Athena said softly. Worse. A being shaped from my own former essence. It knows me. My weaknesses. My old nature. She steadied herself, her voice sharpening. And it serves the cult. In the distance, thunder rolled across the sky, not from storms, but from the shifting of Athena above. The sky arbiters gathered in formation, lightning flashing across their armor. The tide-borne fleets readied their runed harpoons and tidal cannons. The world, sky, sea, earth, felt the awakening of the Shadow Herald. And in the forest, the cult leader lifted her arms toward the heavens. "Rise, newborn herald," she whispered, voice dripping with triumph. "Seek the evolving goddess. Break her. Tear the power from her reborn soul." The herald turned its faceless head toward the coast, toward Athena, and a roar tore from its void mouth, sending birds fleeing, trees cracking, and shadows crawling across the land. Athena steadied herself, golden light flickering across her skin. Alaric drew his sword, blue flame igniting with fierce brilliance. "Athena," he said through clenched teeth. "It's coming." She nodded. "I know." Her evolving divinity pulsed, unsteady but growing stronger with each heartbeat. "This is our first trial," she whispered, "against a creature born from what I left behind." She looked toward the shadowed forest, eyes burning with determination and fear entwined. "And what I must become to survive." Chapter 40. Rise of the First Herald. The world held its breath. From the trembling forest where the Shadow Herald awakened, to the boiling horizon where the deep moss stirred, to the floating isles of Atherian and the ancient ships of the tide-borne dominion, every corner of Egeria felt the shift of fate. A warning, a call, a reckoning. And Athena stood at the center of it. She and Alaric stood upon a cliff overlooking the coast, wind tearing at their cloaks, the distant sea churning with unnatural fury. Her evolving divinity pulsed beneath her skin in unsteady waves of gold and shadow. Alaric stepped closer, brushing his shoulder against hers. "It's coming." Athena nodded slowly. "I feel it. The herald, born from the part of me I abandoned." A shiver ran through the world. A pulse of darkness spreading across the plains like spilled ink. The herald was moving. The sky dimmed as dark clouds swept overhead. Not storm clouds. Shadows. Atherian's floating kingdoms shifted in response. Their massive underbellies glowed with lines of crackling blue lightning, and the sky arbiters marched to the edges of the islands, spears humming with storm-forged energy. From the highest isle, a booming voice echoed across the sky. "The reborn divine walks the earth. The primordial stirs. Arbiters stand ready." Lightning arced between the isles, forming a ring of power above the world. Alaric looked up, astonished. "They're preparing for war. Against what they fear may return," Athena murmured. "A world-devouring force. A second age of gods, or the end of all things." Her voice carried a tremor she could not hide. Far below, the tide-borne fleets responded as well. Ships the size of fortresses reoriented toward the coast. Their glowing sails flared with azure fire, and runic cannons extended from their hulls. The waters rose beneath them, not as waves, but as obedient spirals shaped by ocean magic. The tide-borne High Admiral lifted a trident that glowed with deep blue brilliance. "The maw awakens," he bellowed. "The sea will not fall again." Ancient war drums thundered across the water, echoing like heartbeat of the ocean itself. But no kingdom, no magic, no god, no mortal moved as swiftly as the herald. A ripple of darkness burst from the forest edge, and the creature appeared. It moved like shadow spilling across the earth, its limbs distorting, its body shifting between mist and bone. The void where its face should be pulsed with golden black light, the twisted echo of Athena's abandoned divinity. Alaric drew his sword. Blue flame burst to life, casting flickering light across the cliff. "Athena, stay behind me." "No!" She stepped forward, eyes blazing. This creature was born from me. I face it. The ground shook as the herald landed upon the plains below them, rearing its elongated body upward like a serpent tasting the air. The void of its face turned toward Athena. The creature screeched. A piercing cry that cracked stones and sent wind spiraling violently around them. Trees bent. Birds fled. The earth trembled. Athena grit her teeth, lifting her arm as golden sparks shot through her veins. It knows me, it remembers me. It hates what I am becoming. And that's exactly why it wants you destroyed. Alaric growled. The herald leapt. It moved as a blur. A streak of devouring darkness. Ascending the cliff with terrifying speed. Alaric met it halfway. Blue flame clashed against shadow. The impact split the ground beneath them. The herald shrieked, recoiling from the heat of the flame, but not defeated. Shadows surged up its arms, forming shifting blades that slashed violently through the air. Alaric blocked the first. He dodged the second. The third tore across his chest, ripping cloth and grazing skin. Alaric! Athena cried. I'm fine! He pressed forward, flames brightening. Athena stepped forward, energy radiating outward. Her golden aura flickered. Unstable, wild, but powerful. The herald turned toward her instantly, recognizing its origin, its opposite, its threat. It lunged. And she did not flinch. Her hand extended, catching the herald's strike. Shadow and light collided, sending a shockwave across the plains. Her knees buckled, her power trembling violently, but she held firm. You are not my weakness, she whispered. You are my past. Her aura flared, half gold, half shimmering shadow. She forced the herald back. For the first time, it seemed to falter. From the sky, the arbiters watched. From the sea, the tideborn's war drums grew louder. From the forest, the cult leader's eyes gleamed with madness as she felt the herald connect with its maker. Break her, she whispered. Break the evolving goddess, and let the primordial consume this world. But Athena didn't break. She stepped beside Alaric, her strength intertwining with his flame. Her golden aura intertwined with his blue fire. A fusion of mortal and divine. The herald recoiled, its body fracturing like shattered glass. Alaric raised his sword. Let's finish this. Athena nodded. Their combined force surged. Golden light. Blue flame. Crackling energy. Rising together. And struck the herald. The creature shrieked one final time as its form shattered into waves of darkness that dissolved into the air. Silence followed. A stillness heavy with foreshadowing. Athena lowered her trembling hand. Her power pulsed, quieter now, stabilized by the battle, but far from settled. Alaric touched her arm gently. You did it! No, she whispered, staring toward the distant sea where the deep moss stirred. This was only the first herald. Her voice darkened. And the primordial has many more. Above, the sky kingdoms watched. On the sea, the tideborn readied. In the forest, the cults celebrated. And the world turned toward the greatest darkness it had ever faced. Chapter 41 Dawn After Shadows. The battlefield lay quiet. Where moments before shadow and flame collided with world-shaking force, now only the soft whisper of the wind brushed across the plains. Ash drifted in slow spirals, catching the early light of dawn as it fell upon broken earth, charred grass, and the faint humming traces of fading divine energy. Athena stood still, her breath steadying as golden sparks dimmed beneath her skin. She stared at the horizon where the herald had fallen, shadows dissolving, fragments of her old divinity scattering like dust into the waking world. It was gone. The first echo of the primordial had been silenced. But the victory did not feel like triumph. Alaric approached quietly, sword resting against his shoulder, its blue flame reduced to a soft pulse. Dirt and dried blood streaked across his cheek, yet his stance remained unbroken, resilient as ever. "You held your own," he said gently. Athena's gaze lowered. "No. I barely held myself together." Alaric stepped closer, stopping just at her side. "Athena, you faced a piece of yourself twisted into a monster. That would break anyone." She shook her head softly. "The old gods were never meant to confront their own remnants. I created that creature by abandoning who I used to be." Alaric reached out, placing a steady hand on her arm. "Or you created it because you chose to become something better." She let out a breath, half relief, half sorrow. The sky brightened. A dull glow spread across the floating isles of Atherion above, their engines and cloud roads humming as they slowly drifted back into calm formation. The sky arbiters, who had watched the clash in silent readiness, now stood at attention upon their golden platforms. Their leader struck his spear to the ground, sending a low, thunderous echo across the sky. "The reborn divine has prevailed." The proclamation rippled across the heavens like a rolling wave of wind. Slowly, the sky cities ascended higher, returning to their distant realm, watching, but no longer preparing for war. For now. Athena's eyes softened as she watched them depart. "Even they seem uncertain whether to fear me, or trust what I am becoming." "And what do you feel?" Alaric asked quietly. She turned to him, her evolving form illuminated by dawn, her eyes reflecting the new horizon with both weariness and resolve. "I feel," she said slowly, "lighter than I have in centuries. The herald was born from my past. By defeating it, I have severed one of the last chains I had to what I used to be." Alaric smiled faintly. "Then this is a beginning. Or an ending," she murmured. He raised a brow. "Which do you want it to be?" Athena looked out across the plains, toward the forests behind them, the sea ahead of them, the sky above them, and the soft earth beneath her feet. Her voice was calm, steady, filled with quiet conviction. "An ending to the goddess I was." She stepped forward, letting the morning light wash over her. "And the beginning of the being I choose to become." Alaric walked beside her, matching her pace. "And where does that path lead?" Athena smiled, not with divine authority, but with something warmer, more human, more true. "Wherever the world needs us. Wherever the shadows fall. And wherever the dawn must rise again." Together they descended the cliff, leaving behind the place where light and darkness clashed. The wind carried away the last traces of the herald's existence, sweeping the land clean for a new chapter. No cultist interrupted them. No shadow stirred. No ancient force rose from the deep. Just silence, peace, and the fragile hope of a world that would one day need them again. For now, it was enough. And so, in the quiet breath after battle, beneath the awakening sun of a changed world, the first great arc of their journey came to its end. Not in glory, not in ruin, but in quiet resolve, where endings and beginnings blurred into one. The end.